Buenos días, gracias por conectaros a esta presentación.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. We are going to hear now from our CFO, and we will be taking questions afterwards. We continue to receive questions throughout the presentation, and we'll be able to take them. So, Fernando, when you will. Javier, thank you, and good morning. Thank you very much to all for being with us. We are going to be addressing the activities carried out by Mapfre in the first half of 2024, and we will be talking about the evolution of our business. As we did ever since the implementation of new IFRS, we will be presenting global information regarding our business activities, and we'll providing information regarding the different units with regards the current insurance accounting principles, and we will be presenting the more important indicators under IFRS, which have been obtained from our statements, Mapfre SS statements, as provided today to the CNMV, and we will be comparing between the two accounting criteria. So first, let me share with you our satisfaction. We're very happy with our earnings this half year. We're Mapfre, we always reach for the moon because we are very demanding. The numbers are very good, but we shouldn't rest on our laurels, and I believe that they are proof that the updating of our strategic plan approved by the board this year actually places us on the path towards the objectives which we seek: profitable and sustainable growth. Mapfre had achieved recurrently these relevant growth levels in premiums and in income in the years before the pandemic, but 2024 is an important year because of the improvements in efficiency and profitability, which is what we focus on in our current strategic plan. And this within a setting which continues to be a challenging one for our insurance business, with new emerging risks, with weather complications, growing regulations, and additional requisites with regards capital. Auto and, to a lesser degree, health continue to show the insufficiency of our rates in some markets, which is the result of inflation, which continues to affect us in some fields of the economy. Now, on the positive side, interest rates are a tailwind for our profitability, and this will surely continue to be the case in upcoming quarters. And thus, Mapfre's earnings has grown by 46%. Profits have surpassed the 460 million mark. This is the largest half-yearly profit since the now distant 2011. In non-life, growth of premiums is of 6.5 with a combined ratio less than 96%. There's no doubt that the post-pandemic correction measures continue to improve the profitability of these lines. In life, we've grown premiums more than 2%, but I would underscore the importance of life risk. Growth is in excess of 10%. Regions now, I would underscore the importance of Iberia profits, a result improving the number 37%, and the exceptional performance in LATAM, which continues to be the main contributor to group profits, over 200 million net. Also, North America, no more of a loss, and now again a notable improvement of practically 66 million euros in profits. This is the result of technical measures that were implemented last year in autos, and also very healthy returns from Mapfre Re, reinsurance, global risks, with a net profit of 140 million euros and growth of 15.4%, 15.4. This half year has not seen catastrophes, and this compares with 2023, when we had the terrible earthquake in Turkey. This year, we would address the issue of the Rio Grande do Sul floods in Brazil, with a net impact for the group to the tune of 47 million euros. ROE now is nearly 11%, and if we discount last year's goodwill impairment, our annual ROE adjusted is of practically 11.6%. As always, we have a high, stable capital adequacy ratio, 197.7%. This is March, and within the reference framework as established by the group of plus, less, more, less, 25 points above the 200% mark. On screen, you can see a summary. You can see the main magnitudes which I've already addressed. Profits improved by 46%. That's 462 million, which is the highest since 2011. In premiums, non-life and life risk, overcoming that strategic 6% set forth in our plan. And the combined ratio, which measures efficiency in our operations, improves in more than 1 percentage point vis-a-vis last year, 95.7%, the best in the past decade, with the exception, of course, of the pandemic years. Let's look at premiums now. Let's break them down by line. On this occasion, we don't see those little blue squares because the variation of currency does not affect the premium growth levels. On the right, you see main lines, so you have direct insurance. We see growth levels of 4.3% in general insurance, 5.5% in auto, 8.2% in health. Life risk is the line that grows the most, 10.4%. Of course, fostered by LATAM's excellent performance, especially Mexico. Life savings, a little bit of a drop, although the number in absolute terms is impressive, but over 1.5 billion. I would remind you that last year, 2023, was extraordinary in our context. We sold healthily. Let's now talk about investments. Our investment portfolio is stable, amounts to 43.770 million, and there have been no major changes in the asset structure in the first half of the year. For the most part, our portfolio would address fixed income and other similar assets, over 80% of the sum total, with a slight increase of exposure to corporate debt. On the right, you see Mapfre's position in public debt, over 22 billion, of which 9.4 billion are invested in Spanish public debt. Bottom of the slide, you see off-balance assets, pension funds, and investments are to the tune of 6.5 billion. On screen, you see information regarding premiums and profits per region, per unit. Let me address the ones that are more relevant. Iberia premiums are above 5.3 million, which is a growth of 4%. LATAM contributes an additional 5.265 billion premiums, practically half and half, Brazil and rest of the region. Let's go to Brazil. A slight drop in issuance, 0.6%, which is due to the slight decrease in general insurance, which is 2%, due basically to the cooling down of agro issuance as a result of the slowdown in the calendar of concessions by Brazilian authorities. Our forecast is that it will have a very positive impact in the second half of the year. In the rest of LATAM, premiums grow by 12%, and I would underscore two countries, Mexico and Colombia. The premiums grow respectively 17.17% and 28%. North America premiums are at about 1.395 billion euros, of which the US contributes about 1.117 billion. Very healthy performance in auto and home. Mapfre premiums grew by 6%. The number is 4.347 billion euros. And here we see a slight reduction in global risks, and this is due to the seasonality of some relevant policies, the renewal of which will be completed in the second half of this year. As to earnings, on the bottom part of our slide, you can see most of the regions that in fact have grown notably in terms of profits. Let me underscore Iberia over 37%, or North America in absolute terms, which has gone from losses of 17.7 billion in the last year to profits of 40.8 billion. Brazil, 121 million. Iberia, 168 million. Mapfre, 140 million. Continue to be the three engines for profitability for the group. On screen now, you see the evolution of combined ratios and ROEs by region and unit. The combined ratio in Mapfre is placed at this excellent 95.7% with an increase of 1.3 percentage points vis-a-vis the previous year. And I am sure that it will only get better in the second half of the year as autos continue to pick up speed in upcoming months. By lines, general insurance has made an excellent 83% and auto consolidates an upward trend. The combined ratio is at 104.8% with a drop of 1.4 percentage points, of course. We believe that Iberia and EMEA must improve their auto ratio. This will be happening in upcoming quarters thanks to the technical measures we are implementing. And finally, life risk ticks upward slightly and is at an excellent 84%. Now, regions. Iberia's ratio is at 100%, impacted as it is by auto. In Brazil, fantastic. The ratio reduces and is now 77% thanks to that 2.5 percentage points improvement in auto, which now places it at 101.6%. This extraordinary combined ratio in Brazil is 68.6%, rests on excellent performance of agro. And I would call your attention also in Brazil to the profitability of our business. Our ROE is the highest for the group. It's 23% of returns on capital as invested. In North America, the ratio is less than 100%. It is 99% with a reduction of 8 percentage points. The two factors have been the forgiving weather and the notable adjustments in our rates that we've implemented over the past few semesters. And I would, of course, have to briefly address reinsurance and global also reducing their combined ratios. This is thanks to our efforts in the approval of very prudent, very cautious provisions. On screen now, we see the more relevant data regarding information, financial information, IFRS, and the comparison of the indicators. I would remind you that these standards are only applicable to Mapfre as a listed insurance group. The subsidiaries of the group are mandated to provide financial information in each country in accordance with the standards in place in each jurisdiction. Only Portugal and Malta have adapted their national standards to the international ones. In general, the numbers cast values and trends and variations which are very similar. And these variations actually, in the case of both criteria, would explain this profitable growth and improvement in efficiency and profits of Mapfre. This is spelled out in the numbers. There is only one concept at the bottom of the slide, which is the CSM, the contractual service margin. These are future income in policies. We're talking about policies that are valid for one more year, and the number is 100 million. This is due basically to lesser contributions by Brazil resulting from the devaluation of the real, 10% approximately in the first half of 2024. I'm coming to the end of my address, so let me conclude by sharing with you some thoughts. I would like to say that these numbers confirm the change in trend that we sought with our strategic plan. After the pandemic, we had picked up speed, we'd grown, and now we're doing so more profitably in practically all markets and all units. As we've said in the past, our diversification by business, by line, by country allows us to sustainably deal with the challenges that the current geopolitical scenario presents. So we feel optimistic vis-a-vis our objectives, and they are proof of the Mapfre Group's strength. We are, as they say, crushing it, beating one record after another, premiums and earnings wise. And everything would seem to point to this trend being maintained over time in the second half of the year. LATAM, with Brazil at the head, continues to be the region that most contributes with a 203 million amount. We are correcting the course of our auto line in those countries where we still have difficulties. The measures implemented already reflect the improvement in the technical profitability of a line. First Brazil, then the United States of America, and we're sure that this will be happening in Spain too. And finally, we manage and will continue to manage very actively our investment portfolio, which must continue to be flourishing and profitable. The financial outcome for non-life in this half year has passed the 400 billion mark. We said that we would update our strategy with a new plan, a strategic plan that would allow us to better adapt to the cycle in order to leverage all opportunities, and this is what we're achieving. We make good on the strategic objectives set forth, and we are building the business and growing the profits. Our results are solid. We grow profitably. Brazil, Spain, and Mapfre are the pillars of our business. We observe improvements in all of the indicators, and we are optimistic when we think about activities in the upcoming months. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to give the floor to Javier for questions. Thank you. We have a number of questions, and we are going to bundle them up. First, from Rafael Sierra from Seguros News. What is the impact, he asks, for the insurance sector, the new presidencies in Mexico and Argentina? Let me answer, Rafael. Thank you. And as you know, we never talk about politics because what we want is a stable legal framework. What we want is contained inflation, especially in LATAM, in order to ensure that the middle class thrives and business does as well. Thank you. Thank you. Question number 2 now about autos. We have included a number of questions about autos, so BDS, The Economista, Reuters, and El Confidencial. David Leonor, Jacob, Aitor Caballero, and Oscar. How would you explain that the numbers are negative, the attributable profit, when other companies have achieved other results? When do you foresee that this will continue, or rather will recover profitability in Spain? Can we maintain the combined ratio for the group below 100 between 2024 and 26? I think that let's talk about auto challenges, and if we have time, let's see what we're going to do. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. That's right, Javier. That's right. You'll remind me, and I apologize. I'm going to have to speak at a little bit of a greater length. We knew that this was going to be an important issue. So first, I'm going to be as transparent as I always am, but autos is important, of course, for auto, but other lines and other geographies are doing very, very well. And they are the solid foundations for our results. I'm not going to elude the topic. What have we seen in Spain and what have we seen in other countries? Well, let me talk about what we see in Mapfre. As I said, we were going to control inflation, and the data, material damages and that body damages, well, we're happy. We're very satisfied with the efficiency levels that we've achieved so far. And I would actually say that growth of average costs of these material damages are at about 2%, so less than inflation. And we've achieved efficiency levels that are truly striking. Material damages represent about 66% of our cost structure. And then there's another 10%, which is the cost, cranes and so on, repairs. That also is under control. And the rest, that's 30%, are what we call personal injuries, bodily injuries. This is basically drivers in accidents on the road. We are seeing that, in fact, yes, it's growing by more than 20% in 2024, despite the measures that we have implemented, and especially because we don't want to transfer those costs to to our premiums. Now, in Spain, what we see is that the criteria has changed. We see that people move about differently. We see that there's a 5% increase. Fuel has grown by 4%. So both fuel and mobility are correlated with frequency, and we see that the accident rates are growing. So bodily injuries and others. As to the accidents, well, you saw that because that's been published recently in Spain by the Spanish Traffic Authority. We see 7% more accidents with victims on our roads. Unfortunately, in Spain, we have roads that were built years ago, and our fleet, well, we saw the information, it was published recently, the average age is over 14 years. So our roads are, well, needing improvement, as they say, and the car fleet is aging because new vehicles are not sufficient, and we see accident rates that are as they are. I'm talking about the data we have access to, of course. So measures. Well, we have reduced some fleets. I'm not going to generalize here, especially those that had combined ratios in excess of the average. And today, in Mapfre Spain, it's over 10%. Now is at 7.5%, which means that we're stricter now than we were before with regards to those risk profiles that have this combined ratio, which is above the average. Now, what are we doing? Last year, we saw that increase 8.5. That was last year. That was in our scales. And we saw a correction of some concepts in the scale, and this has resulted in inflations cost-wise, and this for Mapfre, as I said, is 20%. 2024, oh, and let me backtrack. Some measures that were included in the scale had a partially retroactive impact. This year, 2024, we know that the monetary basis of the scale are going to grow by 3.8%, and furthermore, we know that there are going to be improvements in the scale, of course, in the concept of amounts paid. We're working with UNESPA, and we believe that by 2024 we'll have an increase personal damages in excess of 5%. Apart from these numbers that we see when we select the risks, what we're doing is, of course, bolster our reserves and looking at future costs, and we're being more and more cautious with regards provisions. This is going to have an impact in the combined ratio. So, in a nutshell, we do accept that fleets will be affecting the combined ratio by about 2%, and reserves also about 1 percentage point. IFRS, we haven't gone into the details, but we have increased our prudency, our caution. Net impact is of 20 million, and this has corresponded for the most part to Iberia. And there are euphemisms when we say nobody brings up the premiums and so on. Well, we continue to be very, very individual in our approach. So some fleets will see one result, others will see another. The price lists vary. What we do believe is that if there's going to be an increase, an improvement in the scale, and I'm not criticizing this, it is fair for the sum total of Spanish drivers, but the only solution is they must contribute more to the premiums in order to ensure, guarantee the sustainability of the business. So insofar as the legal framework broaches these increases for what we call these compensations for personal damages, we know that in 2024 we are going to have to update the amounts in order to cover this cost increase. And what do we expect to see in 2024? Well, as we said before, we want to have that combined ratio in auto in Spain less than 100 as soon as possible. What I addressed before, the fleets, reserves, we want, and we will see this, that in the month we've seen ratios of less than 100, but what we would expect is to see what we've seen in the recent months. The average will be less than 100, and in 2025, insofar as these events take place, the scale and the updating of premiums, we will see an update, and it will be less than 100 sustainably. I apologize for having taken the floor for so long. I wanted to be as clear as possible. It was a complex question, and I wanted to be as thorough in my response as possible. Well, thank you for that. Reuters now. Will we have that combined ratio under 100 between 2024 and 26? Well, for the group, the objective we have 3 years forward looking, 95, 96, we said that year 3 would see us at 95. We are at 95.7. I have to say that we've actually achieved things very quickly. Life and general insurance is less than 65%. So I have to say that that's 15 percentage points. And auto is at 104 point something, less than 5. But it is very striking. We have 5 points of a negative margin, and in the other two lines, we have over 15.5 points of a positive margin. So I think that for Mapfre, what is very important is to diversify the business, and fortunately, these numbers offset each other. These two lines, excellent results, offset the slight difficulties we face in two countries, Iberia and the MEA, in auto specifically. Also from Aitor Caballero from Economista, why this improvement in the combined ratio in North America? What has happened there? Well, let me repeat myself, if you will. The measures have looked at subscriptions and the rates. We see that we've had to adapt the numbers to inflation. That's our rate schedule in the United States. And I think that you're all familiar with the fact that you need authorization, prior authorization from the authority. And the authorities have been extremely understanding in Massachusetts and elsewhere. They have understood that the numbers did have to vary to offset those compensations. Now, from Seguros News, analysts believe that in June we'll see a reduction in rates in... I'm sorry, no, we continue. Julio Munoz from Capital Madrid, good morning. I wanted to know your thoughts about this Yolanda Diaz idea about taxes on investment funds and so on. The numbers are flat. Is this affecting you in your leading markets? Let me talk first about taxes. I wouldn't dare say, because I'm not familiar with the nature of Yolanda Diaz's statements, but in general terms, I would say that in the world over, in the long term, what you see is that taxes, when they are increased, well, this increase is reflected in the price. What we need to do is control inflation, I would say. So insofar as taxes don't affect inflation, well, that would be very desirable. Now, as to Brazil, I think we need to differentiate. There are 4 main regions. 2 are at a different level in terms of adapting to the setting. Brazil and Mapfre, I think, are touching excellent performance. Brazil with an ROE of less than 23 and their combined ratio, it's not that it's flat. We'd love it to be flat in the upcoming years. We are Mapfre, we are ambitious, and wherever there is room for growth, we will aim for growth. But Mapfre and Brazil, specifically in LATAM, I can only say that we are happy with the results achieved. The other two are the United States of America, where we have seen a major increase in technical efficiency and profitability, and the other is Iberia. The results have grown by 37%, and we see the premiums and their evolution in upcoming months, but we continue to have that little cloud on the horizon, which is painful because it's autos, and autos are so important for us. But we will fix that, there's no doubt. Well, we have no more questions, so thank you all very much for joining us. And for those of you who are about to go on holiday, enjoy your summer, well deserved. Thank you, and thanks to all of you for your presence. This is Friday in Spain and elsewhere. In Madrid, it is a long weekend. So all of you, thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy your vacations. If there are further questions, let us have them, and we will respond. Thank you all, and have a very good day.